You're traveling through another dimension. Dimension not only of comics and movies, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of two simple nerds. There's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the Comics and Cinema Zone. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Comics and Cinema Club. I am your host, Matt Sterling.
Good evening. My name is Drew Scarsome Matchison.
We here at the Comics and Cinema Club are big fans of Halloween, and it is about time that the spooky season has rolled around. So, we wanted to take this time to go over some of our favorite aspects of Halloween and horror in general with a little Halloween Q&A.
Yeah, so basically, we have 13 questions that we have put into hats, and we're going to shake it up and give each other a turn to choose, and we're each going to answer the question, whichever one it is. We got a whole bunch of different questions to choose from. Now it's just a matter of figuring out, I guess, who goes first.
You can go first. I already did the opening bit.
No, I was just trying to think of something fun to do. Of like, spooky, you know? All right. I'm shaking the hat. Okay. Reaching in. Here we go. Favorite final guy / girl from a horror movie?
Very good question.
Yeah.
In horror movies, the final guy refers to the last person standing, and there are definitely a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
Personally speaking, my favorite guy, I would say, would probably be Ash because it's Ash. He's from Evil Dead. He's so much fun to watch and listen to, even when he's not even being the kick-ass tough guy that we know him from, but when he's just being his normal Ashley self. And he's just so much fun, and they've expanded him so well subsequently in the other films, and he's just a blast. I can't love this guy anymore.
Yeah. Ash is a really good pick. For me, if it had to be, I'm gonna choose a guy and a girl. If I had to say a guy, I'd have to say, and this will reflect across a lot of my answers, uh, McGrady from The Thing.
Ooh.
McGrady is one of the smarter characters in that film. He's a really standout character who basically, I mean, technically he's not a final guy because it's him and Childs, but he's the guy who survives at the end. We actually don't know if Childs is the Thing or not. But McGrady to me is just, he's one of the smarter characters in that film who stands out and is actually smart. But if I had to go as final girl, I'd have to say Laurie Strode, the classic final girl. She is also kind of a smart character, and what's always gotten me about Laurie Strode is that in the original Halloween, when they first kind of went through it with her, they were basically like, oh, she is babysitting these kids. She's not distracted by other people. She's not going to do any of these other drugs, so she's more alert. And I feel like that's something that's been taken from a lot of horror movies and put into just they're horny, so they die. When it's really just it's not even that half of the guys who die are horny. It's that half the time when they get killed, they're distracted. And Laurie was one of the few who was not distracted and was able to fight back against Michael.
Yeah, Laurie is definitely a good pick, but if I had to say final girl, personally for me, it's Ripley. Um,
That's also a good one. I
I
was gonna say
she,
that one too.
Beyond the fact that she's also really intelligent, she was able to survive this terrible ordeal with only so many scars, mostly mental. Uh, she was very kick-ass, very well handled for. It's very progressive for the time, and I just can't help it. I just love a badass woman who could just make a simple line like "Get away from her, you bitch" seem so intimidating and so forceful, and I just love her to pieces. So, yeah. My picks are Ash and Ripley, and yours are McGreedy and
McReady and Laurie.
yes. So I'd say those are pretty good picks, all things
Yeah.
considered, because we have a long history of horror to choose from. But now it's
Oh yeah,
but,
definitely.
but now it is my turn to go in the hat, give it a little shake, reach in, hear me wrestling on the microphone. I don't know if that's coming through or not, but here we got our question. Which movie scarred you for life as a kid?
Which movie scarred you for life as a kid? I got two. I promise not all my answers are gonna have two, but actually I'll just do one. The Sixth Sense.
Ooh.
And that is just because there's a scene in The Sixth Sense where the main kid is just trying to help this little girl who was poisoned by her mom. And I'm watching this movie, and it's just like the little girl is in the bedroom, and she's nowhere to be seen. And the kid's going around. Haley Joel Osment's character's going around trying to find her, and like trying to find like what happened to her. And this hand just shoots out from under the bed and grabs his leg.
Oof.
And it's literally just a little girl trying to help him, but it is the freakiest shit I'd ever. Like I was like, fuck. Like I literally got freaked out by it. Um, there's another scene too, but that's not a horror movie, so we're not going to get into that. But yeah, I'd have to say that scene from Sixth Sense definitely scarred me.
Well, if you want options that aren't horror movies, I've got three for you. The
Well,
question isn't about horror movies; it's ones that scarred you for life. So hit us with your best shot.
okay. Well, here's the other one. So everyone knows Holes with Shia LaBeouf. Hear me out. Just
Very,
bear with
very
me.
good movie.
I lived in Arizona for a lot of my life. And when I lived in Arizona, I saw holes and I always got freaked out by those Gila monsters.
Hmm.
I don't know why. They just freaked me out. The fact that they were just everywhere and that they could bite you and kill you with a single bite. So I ended up like basically I got so freaked out that I started sleeping with the nightlight on. And I did that for a very long time because I was so freaked out by that fucking scene. And I lived in the desert and I didn't want the Gila monsters to get me, even though apparently they're not real. So
Well, Gila monsters are real; they just weren't like that in the movie. But I get you.
yeah, but not that poisonous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's more like a bee sting, I think. So,
Mhm.
so that said, those are decent picks. You're gonna judge me a lot for these. I have three options. One
Okay.
is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I've made this. I've
Mhm.
made it clear in the past. When you are a young kid seeing all these strange creatures, all these going ons, you see kids being sucked up into pipes, being turned into fudge, little girls being blown up into giant blueberries, and all the while these orange little monsters with weird knees just go oompa loompa doopa dee doo and go back and forth on the screen just with these horrible eyes. It's just like as a kid that freaks you out. As an adult, you appreciate it, and I think that can be said for a lot of Roald Dahl books. I feel because a lot of his shit is really, really scary when you really think about it. So,
Yeah.
first answer was is that all the while Willie himself and that tunnel scene. Gene Wilder in that freaking tunnel scene is a freaking disturbing thing. It's like that's something that like seeing chickens' heads get cut off as a little kid, or these giant bugs and lizards just all the while a very strange man is singing a very strange poem. It's scary. Okay, like that's just freaky. And I'm almost disappointed that the Tim Burton movie didn't do that, but I'm also kind of relieved because I couldn't handle that as a kid. So there's that. And then my second option will be called The Adventures of Pinocchio. And hear me out.
Uh,
It is a live action version of the story of Pinocchio, not the Disney version. Obviously, it's very very different from the Disney version in some aspects because they follow more the original story. But that movie is freaking creepy. The live action Pinocchio is not a story that works well in live action. It is best saved for the realm of animation because in animation, though the Disney movie had some scary moments, it overall is really charming. It's really fun. It's really pleasant. You enjoy and you have fun and you're not freaked out by a living ventriloquist dummy. In live action, this doesn't work because that dummy that they used, made by the Jim Henson Company, is freaky as hell. This thing moves
mhm.
around in such an eerie fashion. It looks at people in weird ways. It's like those eyes, those dead wooden soulless eyes. It's good puppetry, but it's freaky as hell. And not to mention the donkey scene on Pleasure Island. In the movie in the Disney version that just happened at like a bar and it was slow, it was creepy and that's fine. In the live action one, it's on a freaking roller coaster and there's panels and
Mhm.
lights and it's all caused by magic water and you see slowly with bad 90s CGI kids slowly turning into donkeys with faces expanding and eyes shrinking and turning black and ears sprouting up all in as lights flash at you. It's terrifying. It's like it's just freaky as heck. And I just can't to this day watching that film, it is just kind of disturbing. And the last one and one that I think a lot of people would agree on, Return to Oz. Return to Oz
Mhm.
is like a sort of semi sequel to Wizard of Oz. Very good, very well made movie. Uh, it's freaky as fuck. Okay, like you have these giant four-legged wheeler based creatures looking straight out of Mad Max coming at you with laughing like that's how they laugh. And then they come up on you and from behind and out of nowhere, they scare you. One of them turns into sand when it makes it contact with like the deadly desert. And then the Gnome King shows up and he's made entirely out of claymation. He slowly reaches out, grabs the characters one by one, and just slowly devours them alive. And that is just, oh my god, that is the scariest kids movie I had ever seen. I had never been the same since I watched that. So yeah, those three, that
I,
shit, it just gets you, you know?
I mean, I'll have to agree with you on Willy Wonka because Willy Wonka is definitely Gene Wilder is a psychopath in that movie, and I love it. I'm here for it. I freaking love that meme where it's like, "What if life was a box of chocolates? I'm Willy Wonka. I'll kill children. I don't
Yo,
give a fuck. I'll kill that. That's Gene Wilder, and that's what made Willy Wonka so unhinged and so interesting. Is that like he's literally just like, I think I'm gonna let these kids win. I also think I'm just gonna fucking mess with them and psychologically torture and
yep.
murder them, and then they will live." And he's disappointed and sad and retires. But those are good picks. I'll give you that. Not necessarily like horror movie scenes, but good scenes that have scarred us. Generational trauma or trauma is always good, ladies
Yep.
and gentlemen. Um,
Show these
I
movies to your kids. They're gonna have fun.
yeah, yeah. Although maybe not Return to Oz.
No, Return to Oz too. Why not? It's a kids' film too.
um, favorite sci-fi horror.
Hmm, good question.
Mm,
I Sci-fi horror can be pretty hard to nail down, but I think my personal favorite will be Aliens. Basic answer, since I know I already did Ripley, so I won't go too much into it. But Aliens as a whole is a very fun franchise. But the second movie itself is one of the best I've ever seen. It is just with all these characters and this action and these reactions that people have to these monsters. It's just, and the introduction of the alien queen itself and the connection between Ripley and the girl, Newt. That's her name.
Newt.
I love Newt. uh, I just have so much fun with this. I just can't put it that much more into words than that. It is just so much fun.
Yeah. It's a good movie, and I honestly think that it's crazy that Alien went to Aliens because it was just like, hey, we're gonna go from pure horror, pure sci-fi horror to sci-fi horror is still there, but it's also just gonna be like straight up, action horror, which was really interesting. It kind of set the tone for the rest of the franchise.
Hmm.
Um, my favorite is a movie that I consider to be one of my favorite horror movies and favorite movies in general, and that is John Carpenter's The Thing. I love
Ah.
this movie. It's such a good sci-fi horror sort of film with a lot of alien and body horror aspects to it. The Thing is fucking creepy as hell. The characters are really well put together. The thriller aspect is great. I also have a thing on my desk that is literally the blood samples from that one scene. My name is on one of them. I love that. It's a gift from a good buddy. And that movie is one of my favorite movies in general. But as far as sci-fi horror goes, it like takes the cake for me.
Very good pick, in all honesty. I probably should have thought of that. But uh, yeah, sci fi horror can be hard to do right, as many of the sequels have shown, including Jason X. That one still
Mm.
counts. But it's still can be very fun when it's done right. So now it is my turn. And let's
Yeah.
take a look. Grab a question here. Favorite horror performance. So this is for
Mm.
anything from villains to uh, last guys or just anyone in general. Favorite horror performance.
Favorite horror performance? That's a good one. That's a really good question. I'm
It's
thinking.
hard to come up with answers since there's been so many.
Yeah.
You want me to go first?
If you have one, go ahead. I'm still thinking.
I'm thinking a lot, and I found several. I love Vincent Price in most anything he's in. Um, you know what? I think for if we want to go more modern, I will say Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. He has a lot of life and a lot of energy, a lot of spontaneity, and his kills are just amazing. And if we want to go a bit more classic, I'll say Bela Lugosi's Dracula was honestly very, very intimidating, very formal, and I just loved it. I Universal horror is a lot of fun, and we'll get to that when we get to a certain question. But those will be my picks.
I'm still thinking. I think I'm gonna steal. No, I'm not gonna steal. Um, No, I am going to steal your answer. I'm going to say Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams
Okay.
because he just had fun as hell in that role. and I just love it. Like he also just does like it's campy, but it's goofy, and like there's so many iconic lines from him. You know, groovy. You know, hey bitch, hey she bitch. You know, hail to the king, baby. Stuff like that. It's just great. It's a great line. Stuff like that. He's fantastic, and I love Bruce Campbell in general. He's a great actor. If I had to go more classic, I honestly would probably say Boris Karloff,
Mm.
or or actually Anthony Perkins. Fucking hell, I hate myself. Rescind what I just said about about Bruce Campbell. I love Bruce Campbell, but that's not my favorite horror performance. My favorite horror performance would have to either be Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates or
Ooh.
Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter.
Ah, yes.
Both of those guys do a great job of nailing it out. And yes, I know those are more thriller than horror, but there's some serious horror elements to those movies.
Oh, yeah.
And they nail it out of the park with being disturbing and creepy. Anthony Hopkins literally has an Oscar for like he's one of the few actors to have an Oscar for the shortest amount of time in a lead role or supporting role, I believe. But it's just fantastic how he was able to be Anthony Hopkins. It was great how he was able to be Hannibal Lecter and do a good job of Clarice. Do you hear the lamb still, Clarice? Like stuff like that. Or Anthony Perkins going, we all go a little mad sometimes. And just doing a great job there. Like in general, they are both great actors who are able to play like really disturbing characters.
Yeah, those are very good picks, honestly. And Anthony Hopkins was able to maintain a whole lot of intimidation factors in a lot of the film sequels. I mean, granted, that one where he's literally just eating brains out of a guy's head is a bit silly, but I found him very intimidating in Red Dragon, so I'll say that. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I'm looking because I'm curious.
I think that was Hannibal.
Big Five. No, I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to see. It's my pick next, right?
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
I ate his liver with a nice Chianti.
I'm just curious. Okay, he is the second actor to win an Oscar for the shortest amount of screen time. I'm scrolling through it right now. He had apparently 16 minutes of screen time. Or no, not the second, but he's one of the few actors to have it. He had 16 minutes of screen time, and he still won for he still won an Oscar for. He still won for Best Actor for it, and he only had 16 minutes of screen time, which is crazy.
That's less than Godzilla in the 2014 movie.
Yeah, I think he had 16 minutes. I'm hijacking this. I apologize. I just looked it up, and I wanted to confirm my source before we move on. Okay, I lied. Not 16 minutes. 24 minutes and 52 seconds.
Yeah, close. It's very, very close.
Yeah, which is still, like, not that much. And he's still, like, for only having that much screen time, he still was able to, like, he still has become, like, great in that sense and has cemented himself as a great horror actor, even in a movie that's more thriller, but still. All right, next question time. Thank you for bearing with me while I fell down that rabbit hole. Okay. Ooh. Least favorite horror movie ending.
Ooh, that's a good one. Least favorite horror ending. That's hard to do because there can be plenty out there.
You want me to go
Yeah,
first?
you go ahead. I'm thinking.
I Know What You Did Last Summer. I hate that movie with a passion because it's not that good, but the ending is one of the most convoluted, silly little things that they could have done. I, in general, hate horror movies that just sort of end and they're like, everything's fine, guys. Everything's back to normal. And then, boom, the killer pops up and cuts to black. I hate how they did that in that movie because it was so dumb. Because the movie has a great premise where it's literally like, hey, these guys may have killed a guy, and then he comes back supposedly, but then like they over explain things. They're like, no, he's actually a serial killer or he's a murderer, so it's okay, guys, you did a good thing. And then they kill him, but then they don't kill him, and it just I hate that ending. I hate the ending so much.
That's totally fair. Do you think I Am Legend counts?
I Am Legend. That was the Will
Yeah,
Smith movie, right? It depends on which ending you're talking
because
about, because
that's
there
the
are
point.
two endings to that movie,
That's the
technically.
point. Because I Am Legend technically has two endings. One that I think is phenomenal. It's amazing. It's a perfect ending for the tone and feel of the rest of the movie. But then they went with the safe humanity wins, monsters sucks ending, and I just can't freaking stand it. And you know why? Because I know other scary movies that have alternate endings too. Like take Little Shop of Horrors. Either ending you go with
Mhm.
between the plants taking over the world or Seymour saving the day, either of those work fine because they fit the show's identity. But with I Am Legend, it simply does not fit. The safe ending just doesn't fit. It doesn't work with the ideas of the source material. It doesn't work with the rest of the movie. They really should have just gone with that. And yes, they are making a sequel based on the deleted ending, which I think is a very strange approach. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I say what?
Well, it depends on if that sequel
Yeah.
still happens, because they couldn't keep his wife's name out of their damn
Hey,
mouths.
he has a
Um,
film career still, so I'm just saying. But nonetheless, he's
no, I'm not saying he doesn't, but I'm just saying that people made a really big
yeah.
deal about
So
that.
I if that happens, they said they're going with the deleted ending, and I don't know how well that will work, but I
Mhm.
think the deleted ending is far superior. So I think I'll say I Am Legend, for my personal pick. And
I mean, it's not a bad pick. I think that I'm looking real quick. I know that they're going to be doing it. I think that the sequel, like you said, is based off of that
yes,
alternate ending. And it's going to supposedly have Will Smith solo, or Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan, or Michael Jordan. I am fucking up like crazy today. Michael B. Jordan
well
will
that's
show
good.
up in it. Supposedly, I don't know if it's still going to be happening, but
Well,
supposedly.
let's hope it does. If it is based on that ending. But now
All
it's
right.
my turn. All right, reach in the hat, grab a question. Okay, favorite body horror movies. Okay. Now, body horror is something that's very hard to do because a lot of it falls under exploitation horror, which you expect from something like Rob Zombie or someone. But body horror, when done right, can leave a very well done impression. So I am going to let you answer if you have one.
I could have gone with the easy answer and said The Thing again. I do love The Thing as far as body horror goes. It's fantastic. I'm gonna do. I am gonna do The Thing. Fuck it. The Thing is my favorite body horror movie too. There's some great body horror in that, and some truly great like moments that pop up. Like the spider head is fantastic, and the fact that they use practicals for that is phenomenal too. Like the way that the bodies just contort and change and like get all gross and disgusting. A close follow up though, and I might be stealing your answer, Matt, but Evil Dead. Evil Dead also has some great body horror. It has some great,
Hmm.
truly creepy body horror moments that stand out, and I got to give them props for that too.
Well, those are very good picks. And believe it or not, you're actually not stealing my answer because my answer is David Cronenberg's The Fly. And keep in mind, I love the original as much as anyone else, but the remake is just so much more emotional and deep. You get to experience Jeff Goldblum's character throughout the film, and it's not played up as a flashback. So you're able to experience it as things happen. And the beyond the fact that the effects are incredible, the end result of the Brundlefly is so disturbing and so freaky that it just genuinely boggles the mind to think that at one point this
Yeah.
creature was human. This is a normal human being at one point, and now it is just this terrible abomination. So, and then at the end, it's like fused with the machine, and it becomes so techno organic and wiggles along. It just begs for death, and it's just so sad and so tragic, and it's just so
Mhm.
well done. Cronenberg as a whole is a master of body horror because he knows how to let the exploitation factor shock people, but he also knows how to balance good emotions and character in the mix in order to make sure that the audience walks away with something of a
Right.
good value. So I'll definitely say The
That's a
Fly
good
for my
pick,
pick.
honestly. That's a very good pick. All right.
Mhm. As is Evil Dead.
Okay, my turn. Let's see, which one is this going to be? Ooh, favorite animated horror movie.
Mm. Favorite animated horror. Do you have an answer?
I do have one. Wasn't sure. Okay,
Go ahead.
so I have a few. I'll just go with one. I really like Zombie Island, Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, because it was one of the first animated ones where the Scooby Doo gang actually confronted something that was real. It wasn't just some guy in a mask. It was an actual scary creatures running around, terrifying everyone, and that I actually kind of liked. I liked that they were going all out with it. Also scared the shit out of me as a kid and freaked me out because it was like I love Scooby Doo. I grew up loving Scooby Doo, and the fact that they were like, "Hey, Scooby Doo's gonna fight actual zombies," I was like, "Wait, what? That's freaky as hell." So, and there were some truly scary but also funny moments to it for sure.
uh, Definitely a good pick. Actually, I think that might be my pick too, or maybe Watership Down. No, no, that's not really a horror film. I don't think. I'm just looking at some options here. Obviously, you enjoy films like Paranorman or oh no, there's my answer. My answer is Coraline. Coraline, based on the book by Neil Gaiman, who tug at the shirt collar, isn't really that great right now, but the original source material I adore, and then when I get to the movie, I think it's so much fun. I loved the characters, I loved how well they were represented, I loved the effects, the stop motion work. Uh, did Henry Selick do that movie? I think he did, maybe.
Yeah,
And
Henry Selick did do that movie.
yes, Henry Selick did it, and that makes sense because he's a master with stop motion. So
Hmm.
I will say, uh, I love the characters. I love the mother figure, that other mother, those eyes and those
Hmm.
things. It scarred me as a kid. It uh, just leaves such an impact. And as a fan of the original book, I have to say it's a really, really solid adaptation. So I'll say for my pick, Coraline.
It's also the 15th anniversary of Coraline this year.
Oh, nice! Happy
Yeah,
anniversary!
yeah, they had a re-release in theaters, which is really nice.
And now it is my turn. That's very nice to hear,
Hmm.
though. I just
We
saw.
actually funny story. I work at a movie theater, and we actually had people call, and we're like, "Hey, are you guys showing Coraline?" And I said, "No, we're not, because we're a small theater. We only have a certain amount of theaters." And they're like, "Okay, can I talk to someone about showing it?" I'm like,
Hmm.
"You could just rent it. Just rent it. You don't need to like. What makes you think that you talking to a manager is gonna get the movie added?" But
Go
anyway,
go to AMC or something. They're showing it.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
Bump your seats.
my question. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. Oh, this is an easy one. Favorite Halloween candy?
That's not an easy one. um, I guess it kind of is. My favorite Halloween candy would have to be Kit Kats or Three Musketeers.
Hmm.
Kit Kats so stays on top. I love Kit Kats. Those
I
are one of my favorite Halloween candies.
I love Kit Kats too. They're amazing. Fun fact: Kit Kat was actually my first word, but I think I was talking about my pet cat at the time.
Or maybe you wanted to eat the cat. You ever think about that?
I'm not Alf. I am not Alf. Is all I'll say. Uh,
mm,
I
I think we're in Springfield. Are you in Springfield,
I
man?
oh, no, no, I'm not a Simpson. I don't live in Springfield. Uh, I will say my favorite candies growing up were either Reese's peanut butter cups or Kit Kats, like you said, or
Yeah,
Dots.
yeah.
I love Dots.
No, that's good too.
Like Dots got stuck on my teeth really easily, but I can't help it. They were just so sweet and tasty. I can't help it. They were the best.
Dots are, sorry, dots are pretty good.
They had so many like unique flavors. At that one place we went to, at that mall we went to when we were down in Georgia.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I forgot that. I forgot about that. All right, my turn.
Your turn.
Let me see if I can get an easy one. Favorite horror TV show?
Hmm. Favorite scary TV show? Hmm. That's a good question. I think that there are plenty to choose from. Uh, I really liked Ash versus Evil Dead or Haunting of Hill
Hmm.
House. Those are really good. Uh, if you want something for like a younger audience, I would say the Beetlejuice cartoon was definitely pretty good back in the '90s. They had definitely had a lot of Tim Burton style and effects and play at work there. So those are definitely some good choices. How about you though?
I would have to say Haunting of Hill House.
Hmm.
I really enjoy that show, and I recommend it to everybody because it wasn't your typical kind of horror show. it started off really scary and it kept being really scary, but then at one point, all of a sudden towards the end, it just goes, okay, now we're going to be really emotional and just gut punch you,
Hmm.
and it's great, and I love it, and it's a really well done show, and it's creepy and spooky, and there's also hidden ghosts all throughout the show, and the statues keep changing. There's great attention to detail in it that I just love.
Definitely a far superior remake than the '90s version, which had Owen Wilson and
Yeah,
Catherine Zeta-Jones. So definitely far superior to that.
wasn't
Yeah,
yeah wasn't Vincent Price in that?
I think so. I don't know.
I'll have to look it up. Or it was either Haunting of Hill House
It was
or
called
House on the Hunting
it was
Hill.
called The Haunting, I think, but it's basically the same source material since it's a remake of The
Okay.
Haunting way back in the '40s. So again, definitely far superior to that, which I definitely appreciate.
Yeah.
My turn now.
Yep.
Question time. It's question time. Okay, what is the worst scary movie you've ever seen?
The worst scary movie I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's tough.
Yeah.
I'd have to say one of the worst scary movies I've ever seen, and people will not like me for saying this. Okay, I'm gonna do a classic answer and I'm gonna do a modern answer.
Okay.
One of the worst scary movies I've ever seen is gonna have to be Friday the 13th.
Mm.
I have always seen Friday the 13th of being an imitation of Halloween and trying to ride on its coattails and not doing a good job. And everybody will praise it, and I get it. But here's the thing: everybody likes Jason. Jason isn't in the first
No,
movie.
he's not.
Jason, like, you barely even get horror in the first movie. It's just a bunch of like weird shots of people running around and like all these weird things happening. And then there's a great reveal with Pamela Voorhees, but then that doesn't really go anywhere. And then there's the fake out ending, which I hate. The only good thing, I guess, is it gave us 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So that, I mean, that was his first ever film role,
It's true.
which is crazy to think about.
Just like how,
And then I
just
guess,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just like how Nightmare on Elm Street was
okay,
Johnny Depp's first film role.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and then I guess a modern one I watched like earlier this year or last year, Megan.
Ooh.
Everybody like praises Megan, and I watched it, and I was like not impressed with it at all. And I was like, this is scary. Like people actually like this. I get that. I get that people liked it because it was campy, but I didn't even get camp from it. It just was kind of cringe and like weird and goofy and like, come on. Also, The Purge.
Mm.
I do not like The Purge. The first movie's not great. It tries to make you care for these characters who are assholes and are rich people with sticks up their asses. And they're like, okay, well, they just let some random guy into their house, so now you got to care for them, right? And it's like, no, watch them die. I'm fine with that. But yeah, I went off on a tangent there. Anyway,
Does that even really count? I thought that was like a thriller film, but I guess it does. Um,
I mean, we're counting Anthony
yeah, we're
Hopkins
counting.
as a
So,
horror, so
well, so for my answer, I've watched a lot of Mystery Science Theater. So I watched a lot of bad like B movies. So I think the worst one that I've ever seen is might be The Beast of Yucca Flats or something like that. You don't know what that is, but it's basically this one guy. They kind of just explain everything, but they don't really show it. A lot of time, there's this
I
guy
gotcha.
who goes insane, wanders around the desert. They say he's a nice, gentle soul who is upset about the beast that he becomes, but they never show that. They just have the narrator say that. And then everybody sort of greets death with sort of mild indifference. Nobody really struggles or fights, and all he does is like strangle people or suffocate them. And it's like, you can fight back, you don't have to die here, but they just sort of greet it, almost like they're eager to get out of this movie. So, yeah,
This is, yeah, I
I'm
get
saying,
that. Something I'm gonna say is I've read a lot of scripts because I read scripts for contests and stuff every now and then, and I'm not gonna name any because that's not right. But there are a lot of horror scripts where people think for it to work, they gotta go all out with the gore. They gotta go all out with the scares. They gotta go out with the exposition. They gotta go all out with the weirdness and the sex and
mhm.
everything. You don't. You really don't need to. You can keep it simple. You can keep it easy. You can keep it down to earth. You can make it something simple. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to over explain things. you can just do something really easy and simple and have great horror to it.
It's true, and in this film, in this instance, though, they needed more. They needed more from the actors. They needed more from the designs. It's just very, very much not good. So I think that'll be my answer, and probably for like a modern one. I don't remember the name of it, but a few years ago there was one based on this old Jewish legend called a Dybbuk box, and I think that's what it's called. I can't fucking remember because the only
What do you think it was
a
called?
Dybbuk box, I think. I don't know, or something like that. I don't know. It's like some box and in it contains a demon or whatever, and it's like, you know what? Let me look it up. I'll just look it up real quick.
I know that there was the Bye Bye Man, which was a very much so hated
No,
horror
no, no,
movie.
not that one. Box that contains a demon movie.
You might get a lot of those.
Uh, or the possession. Uh,
Was it the
I
Possession?
don't think it's the possession. No, you know, it's called the Dybbuk box. Dybbukbox.
Oh, I got you. I got
It's
you.
an old Jewish legend, I think, but it's basically just a bunch of nothing. A lot of time they just try to make moths scary, and it's like, no. The only scene I remember from that movie is from the end where a truck crashes into the guy out of nowhere and just leaves the box on the road. That's it. That's the only scene I fucking remember from that whole movie. So if you want like a modern answer, I'll say Dybbuk box. So
That's a good choice, I say.
that was my high pick. Now it's your turn.
My pick? Alright.
There are a lot of horror films to choose from. So if you have any worse ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll take a look.
Yeah. Alright. Favorite horror movie director?
Okay. Favorite horror movie director?
Yeah.
Hmm. There are a lot to choose from, so I'd say I'll just go with three. My top three are Carpenter, Wes Craven, and David Cronenberg. So I already sang Cronenberg's praises earlier, but Wes Craven, his material, obviously he's known for Nightmare on Elm Street and all that stuff, but he has a lot of fun with a lot of the ideas he comes up with. He was able to do a very successful modern day version in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So I definitely think my pick is that, and obviously we could sing John Carpenter's praises for days, but I think I'm going to leave that to you because I think I know your answer.
Yeah, I really like John Carpenter. John Carpenter is one of my favorite horror movie directors for sure. He's up there. He's just fantastic. Halloween, The Thing, a lot of other ones too that he's just nailed out of the park. Not just horror too. Like if you see They Live or Escape from New York, he's just great with that. He's a great prolific
Hmm.
filmmaker. I'm gonna do my top three as well because he's one of them. But then I also love Sam Raimi. Sam
Oh yes.
Raimi knows how to do horror and he knows how to do like sort of campy but also really freaky horror. Like Evil Dead is fantastic. But then he also is good with having there be great little comedic moments and funny little beats to it. You know, nothing will top this, like even when movies that don't have horror and aren't explicitly horror movies, he's doing a good job of having to be horror. Like Spider-Man 2 has one of the scariest scenes in any superhero movie.
Hmm.
When Doc Ock's arms come to life and just start like flipping people around and dragging them away, it's horrifying and it's great and it speaks to Raimi. Now, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that's something else altogether. But I also really like the last one who I'll mention, Mike Flanagan.
Oh
Mike
yeah.
Flanagan did Haunting of Hill House, which I love. I adore Haunting of Hill House. He also did the sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep, which was really good and did a good combination of combining the elements from the book with the Stanley Kubrick film. Did a good job with that. And then also he's done Hush, which was a really good movie about a woman who's deaf and she gets hunted by a serial killer. It was actually really creative and really well done. And there's some other stuff that he's done too, TV shows and movies that are great. And he does a good job of having there be truly scary or spooky moments that are supplemented and aided by actual good emotional beats too.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why we didn't talk about Kubrick himself, Kubrick's only done one scary film in his
Mm.
life, so he's doesn't really count. And granted, it's one of the best scary films ever made, but we'll get to that later. But it's he doesn't really count as like a horror director compared to the ones we've listed. So we love you, Kubrick, but you got to do more. You had to do more scary stuff in
Well,
order to count here.
Matt likes you. I have beef with Stanley Kubrick. I do not like Stanley Kubrick to an extent. I think he's a great film director and he's fantastic, but he was kind of a piece of shit. Let's be honest
Uh,
here. He was a great director, but I
to be
can't stand his work ethic. I hate that.
to be fair though, all the abuse claims that were made on uh, Shelley Duvall, that he abused Shelley Duvall. Shelley herself denounced those, said he was absolutely sweet to her. He was just
Hmm.
rough, like you said. So I'm not saying that he's an abuser. I just say he was tough. But
I mean,
again,
he was an
people are free to.
asshole.
He
He
was an
literally would
asshole.
have people like completely redo and get a shot
That is
perfect.
true.
And no movie's gonna be perfect.
That is
And
very true.
I
So,
can't. I really can't stand him sometimes. I
but
did not know that about Shelley Duvall though. That's good to hear that they were proven to be false.
yes. Uh, so that's that. And now it is my question.
Hmm.
Dig, 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 dig. Let's see what we got here. What is your greatest fear? Hmm.
Oh boy.
Probably pretty deep, so I'll go first. I have two greatest fears. Actually, three greatest fears. Um, everyone that I know and love suddenly hating me and trying to kill me for some reason, being eaten alive, and bees. Like I know one is not like the other, but I can't stand any form of flying, stinging parasite. I've been stung by bees and wasps growing up, and I cannot be around those for the life of me. It's like those flying freaking stingers. I just can't stand them. So uh, there's that. I've had nightmares of people that I know and love, like friends and family, like straight up pushing me off of a school bus, just trying to kill me, and that like scarred me for life. And then uh, being devoured again. Again, Return to Oz. That thing, that giant gnome king, scared the living daylights out of me. So yeah, being slowly devoured alive like that. That was one of my biggest fears.
Yeah. I guess one of my biggest fears is everyone hating me or people just not stop talking to me altogether,
Hmm.
which is something that would definitely I never want to have happen, but that's a big fear of mine. Um, yeah, that's a good question. That's also yeah, that's the biggest fear I can think of.
Don't worry,
Um,
that won't ever happen to you as long as I'm here.
we'll see. Maybe. I appreciate that though. All right, next one for me. Let's see what I got here. Yeah, this is a good one. Good way to break it up after that one. Favorite horror movie comedy.
Favorite?
Favorite horror comedy.
Oh, I got the perfect one for you. Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out. Whap, whap, whap.
I mean, that's not technically a horror comedy, but I get what you're saying.
it is by and large just because of Tim Curry's performance. Like people found this guy scary. He's hilarious. I don't even think that specific scene was supposed to be there. I think he's just wanted to mess around, just like Nostalgia Critic said, and he just wanted to have fun and annoy people. And he was hilarious. He's a very good clown, is all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, he's Tim Curry. He's phenomenal in that regard. Um, I'd have to say one of my favorite is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I love that film so much. It's such a goofy movie, but it's so well done. It's basically these two hillbillies, Tucker and Dale, go on a trip into the woods, and they're having a good time, but they get like hit with all the typical horror movie stereotypes of being like serial killers by these stupid college kids who one of their friend gets hurt and they take the girl to like take care of her and they're like they kidnapped her, they're gonna kill her, so they go to try and like get her back and it results in all of them accidentally like dying
Hmm.
and just really funny goofy horror shenanigans and tropes and stuff, and it's just so well done. A close second I'd have to say is Shaun of the Dead, which is also fantastic, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil, Shaun of the Dead, and Ready or Not, three of my favorite horror comedies.
Yes,
Ready or Not's just great. That ending's phenomenal.
that's it. Same. I will say it and Tucker and Dale and Shaun of the Dead were my backup picks, and I also would say, wait, Return of the Living Dead. That one
Hmm.
had some pretty funny moments too, on top of being genuinely creepy. So, like that scene of zombies eating that guy alive, it's like wow. Oh, or how about this one, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
That's a funny fucking movies. But anyway, uh, those are our picks. So now it's my turn. Let's see. And let's see. We got a long one here. Oh, here's one. Favorite costume you wore trick or treating?
That's a good question. Heh. One year I was Alfred Hitchcock.
Mm.
I didn't technically go trick or treating. I just took a pillow under my I wore a suit and I stuck a pillow underneath it, and that was pretty fun. I slicked my hair back. Another time I went out as an archer because I didn't really have anything else. Um, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're Katniss," and I was like, "All right, fuck off."
I if I would
Why is a guy like walking around playing Katniss? Come on, everyone.
if I was there, I would have said Legolas.
Yeah, yeah. I was like Legolas or yeah.
Uh, for mine, I dressed up as Mr. Fantastic one year, and I really enjoyed that. That was very nice, even though I didn't have friends to do the Fantastic Four with, but people still got it. And
Yeah.
one year I went as the Joker, and you gotta understand, I grew up very tall as a kid, so I looked a lot older than I really was. So when I was that tall, one lady came out to me, just looked at me extremely weird, and just handed me candy and went back in. So
Yeah.
that one bit of scare for her, that made my day as the Joker. So
She probably thought you were the actual Joker.
yeah, and I was just wearing a silly rubber mask too. I didn't even have on makeup, so that was fun. That was like I think that was like my last year trick or treating too. So at least I went out with a scare. But
Yeah, I haven't done trick or treating in a while, but those were some fun costumes.
I would hope
Honestly.
not. We're 25, so
Yeah, I think it would be a little creepy. I'll give it that.
yeah.
All right, next question from me. Ooh, this is a good one. Favorite Halloween song?
And it's terror time again. We got you running through the night.
That's a good one.
It's
That's a
terror
good song.
time again. And you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. I can't help it. I need to sing the
Also
whole
from
chorus.
Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, but that's a good pick. It's a good song.
There are a lot of ones to pick from, but that was one that's on the list, and as well as spooky, scary skeletons. I just can't help it. Every time that comes around,
Yeah,
I just got to vibe to that.
I personally really like. He did the mash. He did the monster
The
mash.
Monster
It's just
Mash.
it's a classic. It's great. It's
I love it.
super well done.
I
It's I
freaking
love
love it.
that so much.
So that's a very good one as well. So there,
Yeah,
Halloween has a lot of fun music that comes around. It may be
it does.
repetitive, but we only hear it like once a year. So when it comes around, I get to enjoy it to the fullest.
Yeah, definitely.
My turn. Let's see. Oh, this is just an easy one. Favorite horror movie.
Yeah,
I think we've made it clear what some of our picks are by now, but go ahead.
I mean, yeah, but yeah. I mean, obviously, my answer is going to be The Thing. I love The Thing. I've already said that before, but The Thing is great. I'm trying to think if I have another one that I really like. But I mean, I love Halloween. Halloween's fantastic. Again, John Carpenter. I just think John Carpenter's a great horror movie director. Um, yeah, those would be my two answers.
Okay, and for mine, I'm gonna go with the classic one. I'm gonna say Frankenstein. Frankenstein is definitely one of my favorite classic scary movies. Uh, as well as, if you want me to be pretentious, I'll say Nosferatu. Like the Count is definitely very creepy, but it's definitely a very interesting story how that all came together. If we want something that's a bit more modern, I'll say Halloween, The Thing, Aliens, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, there are a lot to choose from. Nightmare on Elm Street. I think for slashers, Nightmare on Elm Street is probably one of my favorites because of how creative the deaths are. All of those deaths and a lot of those sequels, no matter how shitty they are, come across as so creative. So I think that those will be my picks. It's just like horror is so broad and generalized, and as we to say just horror, uh, we're going to explore and go further into details down the line. Um,
Yeah,
but I definitely think that those are my picks.
yeah, those are good picks. Those are really good picks. All right. I also would have to say I didn't say this with horror comedies, but it just came to me and kicking myself. I really like Frankenstein too, but
Yes, Young Frankenstein as well.
Young Frankenstein is fantastic. I love that movie so much. It's so funny. I love all the bits of that, like werewolf, there, wolf, there, castle. What brain did you put in?
Normal.
Abnormal.
Are you
You
saying
put an abnormal? Like,
into a
it's
7 foot
such a
tall
good.
gorilla?
It's just such a good movie. I love it.
Gene Wilder had such
Frau
range.
Blucher. Like, I could go on forever. All right. Least favorite horror movie trope.
Ooh. Uh, hmm. That's a hard one. Horror movies come with a whole lot of tropes that everybody can get sick of, and hell, some directors make entire livings off of their tropes. And we'll get into that one very soon because I've seen one of your questions, but we'll get into that one soon. Uh, probably, God, it's hard to think of one. But how about you? What do you think?
I'd have to say I kind of already said it with the killer not being dead, but I also just have to say jump scares.
Mm,
I hate jump scares. Jump scares are so lazy, and there are so many better ways to do scares. Um, this isn't really a trope, but something I think is becoming more prevalent is that a lot of horror movies really want to try and be like really complicated or try and emulate stuff like Midsummer or The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse and Midsummer are great movies. Can I tell you what happened in The Lighthouse? No, I still don't know what happened in that movie. But, it's just kind of like, I guess something building off of Midsummer is just when the characters don't do anything. Because there are moments in horror movies where characters, like, something really scary happened and it's horrifying, and the character's just like, okay, let's go back to doing what we were just doing 2 minutes ago and completely ignore the horror that just happened. It's like, you just watched a man get decapitated. What? Like, in Midsummer, they literally watch a guy jump off a cliff and get his brains bashed out. And they're just like, okay, guys, where's the car? Oh, we don't know where the car is. Okay, we'll spend the night here. It's like, I get what they were going for, but still.
mm. It's hard to say. I think that's definitely an interesting pick. It's actually like a really good deconstruction of horror tropes. Cabin in the Woods. That's a very fun, good one.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like uh, that's just a whole good deconstruction of them. Okay, I think I got one. It's trying too hard to be complex and scary that ultimately just ends up kind of silly. And I've
Mm.
noted it earlier because I don't find it that scary. I find it more funny with how hard it tries to be scary. More often than not, because uh, Tim Curry as a clown is not scary. He's funny. He just does a bunch of stuff. He says some mean things and kind of points and gestures at people. He doesn't really do anything that's scary. So, in trying too hard to be scary, it just comes across as silly. So, I think that's
Okay.
probably it because you lose a lot of the scare value and it just becomes kind of a comedy film. So, I think that's probably mine. Just trying too hard.
That's fair. Those are good picks.
And oh, it's my turn. That's right. Okay.
Mhm.
Do 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 do. Best scary movie that's not supposed to be scary.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's a
I
good one.
think I answered a lot of these earlier with my film that scarred me for life as a kid.
Yeah. Um. Damn, that's a good question.
Like, what's a film that tried to be charming and neat, but ended up being just uh, kind of creepy when you think about it?
I do not know. I'm gonna have to. Do you have like I know you already gave us a lot of. Do you have an answer that's not one of the ones you
I
gave?
really can't think of it because I'm just thinking Adventures of Pinocchio again. Again, that film tried to be enchanting. It tried to be like a fun, light Pinocchio flick, and it's scary as hell. So I think that'll be my answer for this one.
Hmm.
You could say Willy Wonka if you want, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
No, I'm trying to think of it because there's one out there for sure. Huh.
Y-
I guess this kind of counts. So when I was a kid, I had never heard of this franchise before, and one day I just saw an image of promoting it, and I got freaked out. It scared me so much. I hadn't even seen the movie, but it freaked me out. And it wasn't even trying to be scary or anything. And I ended up asking my parents, "What is that? What is it supposed to be?" And they explained it to me. It was an ad for Terminator
Oh,
Salvation. And it was literally just the face of the Terminator that scared me, that freaked me out. Another movie too that's not trying to be scary is kind of meant to be scary, but oh, actually, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the
oh,
Lost Ark. Scene towards the end where all the faces get melted, that freaked me out as a kid.
yeah,
Like that actually, like I could not watch that movie because of how freaky it was.
completely
Like
fair.
it's a good scene, it's great, it's fantastic when I look back on it, but when I was a kid, it just scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, that is just a face melting scene. It's definitely creepy.
Yeah. And same can be said for Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean, fantastic movie. That scene where the skeleton monkey is running around, that scared me. So
Yeah, definitely some
yeah,
solid answers there.
yeah. All right, next one. We're getting towards the end, sadly.
But we're having fun, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, I kind of already answered this. Least favorite slasher movie.
Oh,
You know what? Hold on. Actually, I'm gonna change this up because we kind of already gave our answers. Least favorite gore porn movie or movie that leans too heavily into gore. And that can be slasher too.
hmm. You could say things like Rob Zombie's films. Like some of those are real gore fests, like Poultrygeist or whatever else he came up with. He leans very heavily into exploitation horror. So if you want gore
Mhm.
porn, then you can go for that. Uh, I'm just trying to think. Uh, there's one called Toxic Avenger, I think, that tried leaning
Mhm.
very, very hard into the body horror elements. He's a mutated boy who got mutated by radiation, goes around killing people, and they use a lot of lame effects and over the top bullies. It makes it very clear what it's trying to be. It's not a serious movie. It's just when you're going up against films at a time when you're going up against films like I can't talk, American Werewolf in London or Return of the Living Dead that utilized gore porn in a very fun way, you really got to
Mhm.
ask yourself what you're doing. Like, are you just like what are you doing? So I think those will be my picks.
Yeah. My pick, and I have such a love hate relationship with this series, Saw.
Oh,
Because the first Saw movie is actually decent. It did a good job of being a weird mystery sort of thing, and there were some good, twists and turns. I also really liked the 10th Saw movie, Saw X, the most recent
mm-hmm.
one. But there's a reason why I like that. Because every other Saw movie, since the first one, leaned so far heavily into gore porn and gore in general that it just made it hard to really watch or like or get into. And then along with that, there are so many moments that are just so convoluted in those movies that are just like, hey guys, look out, the girlfriend of your sister is the killer, or it's actually this one's taking place in the past or something like that. Like it's too confusing. It's hard to really follow. But again, like I was saying, the 10th Saw movie, Saw X, that was actually pretty good. And the reason why it's good is because they went like this. I love the concept. The concept is literally, hey, John Kramer gets scammed by these scammers, and he goes out and he goes to kill them. It's from his point of view, and you're like, we're not supposed to root for this guy, but we are, and that's what made it so interesting, unique. But every other movie was unable to do that, in my
Did
opinion.
it really need to take like close to 30 years to get like another good Saw film? I mean, like really, people, come on.
Yeah, yeah,
So those are
exactly.
definitely good picks, in my opinion. So now my turn. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Let's see. Favorite scary comic?
Favorite scary,
Comic.
what was it? Comic. Ooh,
We are the Comics and Cinema Club, after all. And if you,
yeah. I'm trying to think. I have a lot of picks actually. Rebirth,
mm,
Justice League Dark.
ooh,
So Justice League Dark is it was a series created around New 52 that was basically like the magic side of the DC universe. Um, in my opinion, the New 52 version was like a lot of New 52 stuff, not really that good. Um, but when they redid it and revamped it for Rebirth, they leaned into a whole team and like a whole bunch of like Wonder Woman was there. They had Swamp Thing. Like I remember when the first one came out, it was like John Constantine and Deadman and Enchantress and just a bunch of like witches and wizards. But this one was like Zatanna and um, Wonder Woman and Detective Chimp, who I actually learned to really like because of that. And Man Bat was a part of it, and Swamp Thing was a part of it. It was written by James Tynion Ford, which is his actual name if you look it up. And he did a good job of injecting a lot of like great body horror, a lot of great horror moments. He turned Doctor Fate into a villain. He had some great ties into lore. He had this upside down man who was creepy as shit. And then he also, after he left the series, Ram V took it up and did a good job of continuing it on with the horror and everything. So that's a great horror comic.
Definitely some good options there. If you want like a basic answer, someone could say Long Halloween because that definitely has some creepy moments, especially with Tim Sale's artwork. But it's not really a scary comic, you know. It's like it's a really good one. One thing, one that I will
Mhm.
say will probably be Stephen King's Creepshow. Creepshow is a little anthology horror series, sort of like Tales from the Crypt, but it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of scares, and it leads to a very surprisingly solid movie. Because if you ever watch like George A. Romero's Creepshow, you'll think, "Wow, I have never seen a film like this before." It's not like Devil Knight or Twilight Zone the movie. It's definitely up there as a very scary anthology film. You know, so I think Creepshow would probably be my pick. So that's my
Yeah.
question. So now it's your turn.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, look, I love The Long Halloween. The Long Halloween is one of my favorite Batman comics, but it's not like a
Yeah, that's
horror
what I'm
comic.
thinking.
There's scary moments to it, but it's not horror. But yeah, all right. My turn. Well, there's not really much else to choose from, so let me just reach on in. Something got my hand. Something got my hand. Ah! No, I'm kidding. Halloween tradition. What's a Halloween tradition that you
Easy.
have?
Easy. Taking all the candy that the kids don't take and just binging it while
That's a good
watching
one.
Halloween.
That's a good one.
Literally, that's my tradition.
Um, Yeah. For me, I would have to say recently I've started getting into the habit of I watch 13 brand new horror movies that I've never seen before throughout the month of October. And I try to get into it. And then just Halloween in general, it's just choosing one horror movie and watching it for Halloween and eating candy and stuff.
It's very simple. Halloween, like Christmas, can have a whole lot of traditions, and everybody has films that they watch every year. But for me, it's always going to be Halloween. So definitely
Mhm.
just watch that every year.
Yeah.
My turn. Let's see. Favorite movie monster.
Okay, let's from the top. That's a good one to choose with. So there's a lot of good ones. I really like, in my opinion, I'm a big fan of. I really enjoy the Mummy, not the Tom Cruise Mummy, but I would have to say the OG and the Brendan Fraser Mummy because that Mummy is actually interesting. There's a lot of depth to that kind of Mummy, and it's really interesting to see how they go with them and what they do with them and to see that hey, there's actually a lot of like emotion with this guy. It's not just like hey, I'm a scary monster. Like I actually, I'm trying to reunite with my love. And I also love Frankenstein. Frankenstein and Dracula are two of my favorite, but I have grown to really like the Mummy.
Well, let's make clear. Brendan Fraser's wasn't the OG. That the OG's was Boris Karloff, but nonetheless, uh,
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that Brendan Fraser was the OG one. I'm saying that the Brendan Fraser one was much
yes,
better
it was.
than the Tom Cruise one. Boris Karloff will always be the OG,
Yes.
but the Brendan Fraser one is great.
Uh, for me, it's twofold because you have the Universal monsters, but then you also have others, like the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms uh, or King Kong. But my personal pick will probably be Godzilla. And it's a simple answer. It's a basic one. I've grown up loving the franchise and all the different ways that it's changed and evolved over the years. And I especially love the place it's in now, since a lot of people are drawing more attention to the franchise and all the different facets of it. Because in the same year, we have um, Godzilla X Kong, which highlights Godzilla being a fun, goofy kind of action hero film, like protecting the planet in okay, I'll do it, but I won't like it sort of way, and just overall having fun. And then we have Godzilla minus one, which takes it back to its more serious roots in being an anti-war, anti-nuclear horror message. So
Yeah.
recently, we're definitely getting a lot of that, and I very much appreciate it. I think for the universal aspect of it, I will probably also say Frankenstein because you understand Frankenstein's monster, I should say, because you see the struggles that it goes through in trying to seek acceptance, but it's also just wandering around, hurting little girls and everything else. It's just it tries to seek acceptance, but it also can't because by nature it hurts things because it doesn't know any better. So it really makes you ask a lot of philosophical and moral questions about yourself. So I'd say Frankenstein and Godzilla. Which, fun fact, at one point they were going to have a Frankenstein versus Godzilla film, I think, but that in turn got messed up by a whole lot of things. So, yeah, it's that never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Let me reach into the hat. What is a horror movie that other people found scary but you do not?
Oh, uh, hmm. I would say probably 2017's It. And you might
Hmm.
judge me for this. I don't think that the movie is bad at all. I don't think it's bad at all. It's just when it was released, everybody, including Drew here, was hyping it up as one of the scariest things ever. Like I literally remember, I went to the cafeteria once. He just came back from a group of friends from seeing it, and they were at the school's main restaurant. He just said to me, "Don't watch that at night. Don't watch it at night." So I I watched it at night. I watched it in the dark when it was released. I definitely gotta say, people were kind of overhyping it for a little while. Because while it's definitely good and definitely better than the original and trying to be a scary movie, I never found it to be that scary, in comparison to other films. Like like maybe it's just me. I don't find Pennywise or clowns that scary because, they're clowns. Whatever they do, they're going to be a little silly. It's like a lot of times the fans try to deny the silly elements of it. Like at one point, he literally just does a silly little dance. Like, come on, you're sure he's not supposed to be at all funny? He's an evil clown. Have some fun with it, you oddballs of denial. So, uh, while I definitely think it's very, very good, I don't think it's like the scariest thing ever, like some people were hyping it up to be at the time. So that's just me.
A lot of people would disagree with you about clowns. Clowns are not really as silly as you make them out to be. They're pretty goofy and or they're pretty scary. They're pretty freaky when it comes down to it. Like there was literally a whole phenomenon where clowns were running around and tormenting
Yeah, and
people. That was an actual thing that
that's a thing in
happened.
real life, but on movies is what I'm saying. Like it's one thing when it's in real life, but in movies and television, that's
Yeah,
a
but
different
that can
thing.
translate to movies. You think that people don't see that happen in real life and then go see it and are like, "Oh, this is freaky," or vice versa. Like I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
fair.
Um, for me, I'd have to say The
Hmm.
Shining. Everyone hyped The Shining up. Everyone was like, it's one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Oh, it's so creepy, guys. Oh, it's so amazing. Oh, it's so suspenseful and so great. That was one of the more boring movies I've ever seen. I just was not impressed with it. It wasn't really that scary to me. It wasn't really that good. There could be good suspenseful horror movies. I didn't really get suspense from it. It was just let's run around this old hotel and have things happen eventually. And there are some good moments. I'll give you that. I mean, here's Johnny's iconic. I will not deny that. But it's just kind of like it really did not feel like it's as good as people make it out to be. People only made it out to be that good because of you know Kubrick and because of how good Jack Nicholson did in it. But I mean, here's the biggest question I have: what in the fuck was that dog seeing?
That's the question. That's the thing that's
Like,
supposed to make you ask, what is that?
but I don't want to laugh when I'm watching a movie. Like, people are hyping it up as being like the scariest movie I've ever seen, and I watch it, and there's just a guy getting diddled by a dog. I'm like, that's not scary. That's just confusing. What? Huh? It's like you and clowns. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
everybody has their
But
own little phobias that people are afraid of. Some people are scared of snakes and spiders. Some people are afraid of clowns. I'm not. So that's just me. But yeah, I get what you're saying, though. So my question was favorite slasher. Like, I think favorite slasher villain. So as mentioned, slashers come and go, and I mentioned this earlier, so I'll just be brief. I think my personal favorite is Freddy Krueger. He has a lot of life. He has a lot of fun with the role. He uh, enjoys killing so much, and all of the kills he comes up with are very creative. I literally, in one of the sequels, saw a girl melt into a giant cockroach and be crushed in a roach motel. So if that doesn't stick with you, I don't know what will. So I think that'll be my pick.
No, it's definitely creepy. I'd have to say my favorite slasher would be Michael
Also
Myers.
good.
Michael Myers is great. I love how they do Michael Myers and how he's interpreted. It's one of the few endings where, yeah, it's definitely like a, hey, it's a bit of like a fake out ending, but I feel like it does it pretty well.
Yeah, we'll cover Halloween and the effects of it more when we get to that episode because I think that'll be its own episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
Mhm. All right. I guess I got one more. So my last question is, what is your favorite slash least favorite Stephen King movie? I kind of already answered this with The Shining, but I have a favorite one that I'll get into in a second.
well, for me, strangely enough, it's Stephen King's version of The Shining because he hated the
Mm.
Kubrick version so much he did his own version himself. Here's the thing with Stephen King: when he's good, he's amazing. He's groundbreaking. He gave us incredible, groundbreaking stories. Uh, and when he's bad, typically it's a lot of fun. You know, like Langoliers, Tommy Knockers, or uh, Sleepwalkers, or Dreamcatchers. Usually, it's a lot of fun. So no matter what, you'll get an experience. But with his version of The Shining, I don't remember a single thing about it. It's what for me,
Mm.
it's what Drew was describing with the first Shining because the first one is definitely very suspenseful. It has a lot of build up. Sure, it may not have the most satisfying payoff, but I love Jack Nicholson's performance. I will always remember Shelley Duvall's performance and the kid. I will remember these performances forever. I will not remember a thing from Stephen King's version beyond just weird moving plants and every now and again some people just talking. The majority of the film is just people just talking and explaining, and it's boring as hell. And it's like, come on, show a scary ghost, come play with us, Danny, have fun with this. At least the Kubrick version tried, it tries to have fun, it tries to build up suspense, and I'll remember a whole lot of things from that, but I will not remember a thing from King's version. So that's that. But for my favorite film, I don't know, probably something like Shawshank or Stand by Me or Green Mile. Nah. If we want like a scary answer, I'd say either Misery or Carrie. Misery is definitely something that's really scary, especially for everybody who makes content and has fans in the world. It can be something a very scary experience, as well as a good warning for fans about what happens when you can go too far into one product that makes you happy. When you enjoy one project or one thing that makes you happy, when something happens to it, it can lead you to some scary places. So I definitely think it's a good warning for that, and also creators. And for Carrie, it's just so tragic. I love Carrie. I love how gooey it is, how gross it can be. I love how little they explain of her powers, and I just feel so sad for this poor child when all she did was just want to be accepted. And yet, at the end of the day, everything was just against her. And this poor girl, and it's so tragic. And I just adore it so much. So, those are
Mm.
probably my picks for favorites.
Those are good answers, and I would have honestly, I would have taken Shawshank.
I
Shawshank
love
is a great
Shawshank too,
movie.
but it's like we're
Um,
talking about scary movies here.
yeah. As far as scary movies go, I'd also have to say Carrie. I really like Carrie. Carrie was a very unique and very well done movie. Um, Misery, like I'm agreeing with you, Matt. Misery and Carrie are two of the scariest movies that he's had made. Another one by Flanagan,
Hmm.
Gerald's Game, is also pretty good.
Yeah, Gerald's Game. That's right. I
Um,
remember that.
it's a,
That's one I just saw recently. It's really good.
yeah, yeah, it's a good one too. But I gotta agree with Matt on Misery and Carrie. Those are probably two of his best ones to have been adapted, and they've
Hmm.
worked really well.
Yeah, it's like, again, with Stephen King, you can get stuff that's incredibly groundbreaking and timeless, but you'll also get films that are very silly and goofy, and him trying to be scary, but also it just comes across as silly. Like Maximum Overdrive is another example. So, uh,
Yeah.
again, we love Hugh King. Please continue your work, and please continue to be as fun as possible. So,
Just please don't write anything about
Yeah,
kids having a gangbang in
oh
tunnels to
god,
find a
that
way out.
sucks. But thank God
We don't need
neither
that
film version did
again.
that. So okay,
Thank
last
God.
question for us, and this is a very good one to go off of. Favorite Halloween special. So a lot of times products when they go on for a while, they'll give you certain specials based on holidays, and uh, we just want to go over our favorite ones that will last with us forever.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Hold on. One that stands out to me. This isn't technically like a Halloween special, but it's just something I'm thinking of. Scooby Natural from Supernatural. It's like you could look at it and you could definitely say that hey, it is like a Scooby, it's a Halloween kind of episode. It's so good. It's so like it does a good job of honoring freaking Scooby Doo and does a good job of upholding it. It's so good. It's so well done. Another one I'd have to say is Summerween from
Oh yeah,
Gravity Falls. That one is also really good. It's spooky, it's intense, but it also does a good job of being funny. Like I love the ending too because they managed to do a Halloween episode
yeah.
in summer, which is great. I love that they were able to make that work. But I just love the ending when everyone is like, everything's fine, everyone's just like cackling, then it goes quiet, and Seuss just goes, I ate a man alive tonight. And everyone just like turns and look at him like, what? Like, I love that they were able to get away with that kind of humor and that sort of thing. But those, I'd have to say that those are great Halloween specials right
Yeah, and one that I'll go with, just a very basic answer: the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Like it's
there.
not
That's a
even
good one.
scary.
I
It's
was gonna say
just
that too.
it's the Peanuts gang. What do you expect them to do? Go up against like Jason Voorhees or something? No, it's like you go and you have a nice special that takes you back to when you were a kid, and it makes and you just have fun with it, you know. And every year we sympathize so much with Charlie Brown just getting rocks. Like I got I got 5 pieces of candy. I got a quarter. I got a rock. That's my favorite Halloween joke. I wish as a kid I watched that special more and just put on the blanket sheet like that because I guarantee you, if I got rocks, I just have the excuse to throw them back. He who gives out rocks on Halloween candy as Halloween candy can expect them to be thrown back through their windows on the same night. Is all I'll say. Who would to this poor kid? Like what does he do to get deserve rocks? Like I get his costume. I get his costume has more spots, but you could just say he's the Spot from Spider-Man comics, and it'd work. So yeah, that'll probably be my answer. And that was the last question for us,
Yeah, that's a
everybody.
good answer. Yep, that's gonna do it for that spooky episode for today. Don't think we said at the start though, but this whole month of October we're gonna be doing spooky related things. So keep an eye out, and hopefully we can keep having good horror little talks on here. But thank you guys for listening, and have a good day. Or as I guess we should say, have a good evening.